what is the appropriate thing to say to someone who is struggling? Because, everyone has their own perspective, whether it's religious or spiritual or materialistic. And I feel like the ideal that I'm striving for is if someone is suffering, is to convey compassion towards them, but not try to push any kind of agenda to contextualize it for them or help them manage it or any of that stuff. I just don't feel like that's my place. So
Yeah, well, a few things. First, I want to commend you on your charitable act because there's a famous quote that Jesus said in the Bible, and he said, "Whatever you did to the least of my brothers, you did it to me." So, by you saying yes to him when you didn't want to was extremely charitable. And one of the sayings in Christianity is charity covers a multitude of sins. So if you're a charitable person, aka when someone asks you to do something for them and you really don't want to do it or it really inconveniences you, but you do it, that has so much merit in God's eyes. So I do think that that moment was presented to you from God, and you said yes. You didn't want to, but you said yes, which was extremely charitable of you, and I want to commend you on that because that is the Christian way. Um,
and the Jewish way,
yeah, no, yeah, for sure. Yeah, absolutely.
I think. I don't actually know. What
Um,
else were you going to say?
But yeah, also in regard to what you said to him, I think that was perfectly fine because you stated a fact. It wasn't too invasive. You weren't trying to push an agenda, and you don't know how much that might help him. Maybe he went to his room later that night and said, "Wow, that really makes sense. This unfortunate, debilitating thing that I have." Maybe it is to make me humble, so I wouldn't feel guilty about that at all. You weren't pushing an agenda. You just said one sentence. It was a fact, and that could have helped him. It could have enlightened him. It could have made him realize, and it could have thus made him more okay with his condition. And I love what you said about God never sends a person across too heavy for them to bear. All of us have and God's the only one who knows what we can bear, what we can tolerate, what would be too much. Um, and that's absolutely true. So God bless that guy because he's been given a much heavier cross than I have, much heavier. And God bless him for bearing it. And I'm sure it has cultivated a lot of humility. And I hope that God blesses him abundantly for it because I know that that can't be easy.
And that does fit in with the model of redemptive suffering, if I can extrapolate it as a bell curve.
Yeah.
So, like those individuals, those souls that say, okay, yeah, I'll take on that life, or and I know you may not agree with this, but I'll be Hitler this life, or I'll be this crippled person, or I'll be this murderer. Because someone has to play that role in the grand scheme, and and I think I can bear it. For me, I can't imagine that I said, yeah, give me these intense migraines because that's the only thing that's going to make me surrender. But
Hmm.
if the theory is correct, and I did say that, I did sign up for that, and here I am, hopefully going to see some culmination in a few days.
And also, it kind of can help put things in perspective for you. As much as piercing migraines suck and as painful as they are, you know, you've now seen someone who's in a far worse situation, right? So it really can put things in perspective for us,
Yeah.
I mean, I have to see stuff like that all the time to get out of my own head. I see someone in a wheelchair at the store, and then instantly I just think, wow, you know. I have nothing to complain about. I have it so good. Sure, we all have our own crosses to bear, but I have nothing that can compare to that cross. And it evokes empathy, it evokes sympathy, it evokes love. Um, and yeah, so it's like these things really can help put things in perspective for us and make us grateful.
That's why what he said was so intense, saying when he said everyone has their own shit to deal with, because as you and I both know, or believe at least, what he's dealing with is a lot more intense than anything we're dealing with.
Mhm.
So for him to say that is like, he's got a very broad perspective.
Mhm.
despite not being able to get words out much of the time, despite having no prospects of the life that people in this country
Yeah,
tend to anticipate. Yet he's able to acknowledge that everyone is dealing with things.
right.
That's
I
pretty big.
mean, it just shows that his unfortunate situation has brought about humility in him.
And it's so interesting because I think because all the meditating I do, I'm able to spot these little things. You might call it a demon. I call it the ego. But there was this moment where I'm like, okay, so I'll do this good thing for him. Then he'll tell the mean woman that I did it for him. And then I'll no longer be hassled. And I think that's built into our DNA, right? Because those individuals in the tribes who extended themselves were more likely to be protected by the tribe and not cast out. Those
Mhm.
individuals said, I'm not going to help you. Then when they got in trouble, the tribe wasn't there for them, you know. So I think that's the thing about Walking Dead that's so interesting is that these people, especially the main character, despite not being, I'm going to choke up this, even though it's a fake story, despite not believing in anything, really, he's constantly very concerned with others, like risking his life to save, I don't want to spoil it for anybody, but like risking his life to save a very bad person, risking his own family to save someone that's missing. Like he's constantly unable to stop himself from doing the right thing. Um, and it's not based on any belief. Like he's just like in other words, no external entity or story or book is telling him this is what you must do. He simply knows it in his bones that he has to do the right thing. And
Right.
it's very inspiring to me. And as I said in the pages I sent you, I think I sent it to you. I would prefer to, as I said yesterday, be inspired by the story of Jesus, irrespective of any divine connection. Any, if he's an ordinary man and still came to forgive, to me, that's very inspirational, perhaps more inspirational than someone who is partly divine,
Mhm.
who is able to do that because, well, you're partly divine, so of course. But if you're a regular person just like you and me, and you can do that, it's huge. But by the same token, I'm unlikely to just, and that would happen, I guess, in the biblical times, I'm unlikely to be like, okay, well, I'm now going to believe in this person, Jesus, because without any miracle happening. Like I think it's human nature to expect, and all the things that you've spoken about, there were things that happened that were signs to you that there's something else happening. And if that doesn't happen, I don't know if it's possible. And if it is, it's rare that
Mhm.
someone's going to be like, all right, well, I'm just gonna look at the story of this person who forgave his captors, and I'll be inspired by that, and then therefore ask, pray to that. Like that's a huge leap to make.
Yeah.
Um, so I would prefer to make that leap, but I don't think I can. And so if the migraines go away or don't go away, if there's some method by which I can give proper veneration to something that deserves veneration or that it
Mhm.
benefits me to surrender to it,
Mhm. Mhm.
because I think there's a tricky thing in here, which is like I think a lot of the framing often is that God or Jesus or whatever is great, and therefore you have to pledge or be loyal to or
Yeah.
something. And I see it differently. I see it as there's this thing, doesn't it doesn't really need you to do anything at all. You're fine, you're loved, even if you're a murderer. But
True.
if you do align with it, if you do pray to it, if you do see it as the ultimate more than the what could lust or greed or violence or even pleasure can get you, then you are going to raise yourself up out of
Mhm.
something.
Mhm.
And the only way I know to do that now is to find that thing that
Mhm.
calls me.
Mhm.
And this character is able to do it without having anything.
Yeah.
But I think most of us need something.
Yeah.
So yeah.
That's fair to say. And God, like I always go back to, God is the only one that can read a human heart. He knows your intentions. He knows what's going to work for you to bring you to him. So God probably has breadcrumbed us along this whole multi-month process of you beginning to cultivate a prayer life and ask for signs and, in hopes to come to believe. This was all leading to the culminating moment of this Saturday of your healing because God likely knew that the healing of your migraines was the only thing that's going to do it for you, right? Because I've told you, obviously, from my beliefs, from my perspective, you have already received probably at least a dozen signs that are undeniably from God that were in direct response to your prayer, that were, seek and ye shall find, knock and the door shall be open to you. You did that, good on you, and you received answers to everything you asked for. So, for me, um, he has already clearly revealed himself to you many times, but God knew, and it's understandable. You're 59 years old, you grew up Jewish, like it makes sense that this is as difficult as it is, and it should be this difficult. But God knew that the healing of the migraines was the only thing that was going to do it for you. So now we are led to this moment a few days from now, the culminating event where I do believe that you are going to be healed of your migraines, and God willing, that will be what it took. Um, so I mean, you are truly on the precipice here, and it really is a life-changing thing, and I'm excited for you. I'm very hyped. I have full faith and belief because, as I've said, through the power of God, my spiritual director is the vessel. Um, there have been many that have been healed of migraines, many, many, many. There have been paralytics who have stood up and walk. I mean, so there's it's not a question of if it can happen, it's if it will happen. And I do believe that it will happen because you have shown so much humility, so much courage, so much willingness to give all of this a try, despite everything that has been ingrained in you. God knows how hard that is, and it's very commendable. And I think your reward is going to be on Saturday.